Little caffeine boost.
Mm-hmm.
There's camp, but there's no live.
We are live. Is that you?
That was a very delayed response.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, unless he's a ventriloquist or something.
Okay, we are now recording and we are live, so you can
Okay,
go ahead
I
and
will.
get started.
Good evening, everyone. So the board took action on the following items in closed session. With a vote of 5-0, we approved the following new hires. Approved the hiring of Tyler Carpenter as 5th grade teacher effective August 11th. Approved the hiring of Alyssa Peterson as the 4th grade teacher effective August 11th. And approved the hiring of Angelique Espacio as the 6th grade ELA social studies teacher, also effective August 11th. And with that, I'd like to officially open session at 6:32 p.m. And roll call. Brown.
Here.
Abiana.
Here.
Gutierrez-Plari.
Present.
Papua. And Rudolph present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as a reminder, I'll read our mission statement. Mission is to engage, educate, and empower the Bayshore community, growing engaged hearts, educated minds, and empowered visionaries. And with that, we will move on to item 3, approval for the agenda. I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, public comment. Dr. Pittman, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Item 5, consent items. Are there any questions on consent items?
6.
Okay. Item 6 is educational
Wait, we
services.
need to approve.
Oh, sorry, apologies. Moving too fast, slow down. I need a motion and a second to approve consent items.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we can go on to item 6, educational services, and I'll hand it back over to Dr. Pittman.
So first is our public hearing for the local control accountability plan. So I'm going to talk to you about the plan, which is in the agenda. There are a couple things. So one is, in the past, I have done a full presentation. It's a 3-year plan. So this plan is from 2021 through 2024. So I'm not doing a full presentation because we're continuing in the plan that we are in. So I just want to remind everybody of where our goals stand and what are some next steps and any modifications that we have made. And so we're keeping our 4 goals. We surveyed staff and families. And so our first goal is around school connectedness. Our second goal is a broad goal around academic achievement for all subject areas. Our third goal is specifically around reading. And then our 4th goal is around basic services. So if you can see, we've been able to meet some of the metrics. And when you look at the LPAC, it says the LCAP. It says we give an outcome of where we are right now at the end of year 1. And then we had our goal at the end of the 3 years. So we haven't met it yet because we're still just 1 year in. So we want to be mindful of that. Some of the metrics have not been released yet. So for example, we have not received our SVAC scores from the state tests on English and math. Those are coming this summer. And so those will be updated at a board meeting in August. You'll have those results. So that'll be one of the updates that happens in August, is these are the metrics that we were able to collect over the summer, and we can communicate that data. But you can see that for some of them, for example, for our reading goal number 3, we were able to show that we had our FMP data and we had our iReady data. And so we've either stayed consistent and or grown. And then our one-to-one we've met, so those various things. So you're gonna see that in there. In terms of what has changed is we restructured, and we've talked about this, we restructured the student services department, where we brought Ms. Carrillo back out of 3rd grade and put her back into student services. And the idea is that we have students with high needs. So now part of her job will be specifically to support our English learners. And then part of Ms. Rozier's job will be to oversee the reading program to make sure that our students are growing in their reading scores. So that's one major change that has occurred. I did get some feedback, late feedback. So part of the process of getting the LCAP approved is we work with the county office. They have to say that we follow the template, that we have enough money in our budget to meet the goals. And we met last Thursday and they said everything was good to go. Then we got some last minute feedback last night in terms of one of the percentages we needed to adjust. And so it was not adjusted for tonight, but I told them that I would bring it up to you. I've made those changes. I've communicated with them several times during today. So during our adoption tomorrow, I will upload the minor changes that have occurred, because that's what happens is we have the public hearing. There might be some feedback for adjustments that need to occur, and then we make the changes for the adoption. And then the other piece was Board Member Gutierrez Polari had referenced that in the LCAP, we say that these goals meet the 8 state priorities in these ways, but then I don't mention what the 8 state priorities are because they're the 8 state priorities. But what I did is I added to the introduction what those 8 state priorities are. So that way, anybody who's reading our LCAP can see priority 1 is basic services, priority 2 is student achievement. So that will be tomorrow. You'll see that in the new LCAP as well. And so now we need to have our public hearing.
Okay.
Unless well, first, are there any questions?
No questions.
Okay, so public hearing is opened at 6:38 p.m. Are there any public comments?
No, not.
Okay, then public hearing is closed at 6:38 p.m.
So what's new this year is in the past, so there's somewhat new and somewhat not. In the past, we have done our public hearing for the LCAP, and we have then adopted it. And then in October or November, we do our local indicator measurements, and we share because there's the state, which are the state test scores that we have to show growth on. And that's where the dashboard comes in. But then there's also things that we measure. Every district is different in terms of how it measures. So in the past, it's always been presented in October or November from the previous year. And then we enter it in the computer, and then the public gets to see it on the dashboard. So what they've said now is now they want you to actually do your local indicator presentation at your LCAP presentation adoption in June, whether it's your public hearing or your adoption, which is when it should be given, because we're giving a review over what happened the previous year. We still won't enter it until November into the computer, and it still won't come live until December for the state, but we now give it now.
Okay.
And so this is where I'll go over the actual 8 state. So as we talked about the local control accountability plan, there are technically 10 state LCAP priorities. If you notice in the upper left-hand corner and the upper right-hand corner, number 9 and 10, in parentheses, it says County Office of Ed only. So those do not pertain to schools. So those go away, okay? And then you can see that in terms of local measures, we only address basic services, implementation of state standards, course access, parental involvement, and school climate. The others are actual state measures that they give. So for state performance levels, that's on the dashboard where we have red through blue. You go from the lowest scoring to the highest, and it's a status and a growth. So there's a standard that they want you to meet, but they also want you to be able to show growth. So if you have decline in your math test scores, then you're going to go down. Versus if you have growth, then you'll have an opportunity to go up, because we want to award people for doing better. And then it's the opposite for example, suspensions and expulsions. You want to have less suspensions, so you want that to go down, and then that would get you up to green. And so for local performance, though, there's three: you either meet it, you don't meet it, or you don't meet it for 2 years. So ideally, if you don't meet it, you fix it so that you're not meeting it for 2 years. Every year we have met it, and yet again this year we have met all of them as well. So the first one is basic services. So we use our school accountability report card. We want to sustain a less than 10% misalignment of teacher vacancies, incorrect or no credentials, or non-highly qualified teachers. And so this past year, 100% of our teachers had credentials, 0 were misaligned and or vacant teacher positions, and 100% of our teachers were considered highly qualified. The year before, we were at 92%, and that was because 2 of our staff members were on intern credentials. And so that's when you see the change.
So if a staff member is, because one of the new hires is going to be working on their credential and
Finishing their credential through December.
So does that,
By the end of the
Impact is-
year, they'll have their credentials, so we'll still be at 100%.
got it. Okay, that's what I was curious.
And so our goal, though, is to have less than 10%.
Right.
And so we'd still be meeting it.
Yeah.
But we might have one teacher that, if they're working on their credential through the year, they're in a program, they're an intern, which we're allowed to have. But it wouldn't be 100%. It would be less than, it'd be like 94%, something like that. But if they earn their credential before the close of the year, ideally by December, then that means for half the year they've had their credentials, so we would still be at 100%. The second is the implementation of our Common Core state standards. So we use the reflection tool. We have full implementation in ELA and math. We're still at initial implementation with ELD. So hopefully, and this is something I'll talk about with my successor, is that with restructuring the student services department so that we have a part-time teacher that's focusing on ELD, that initial will be able to make a shift to do that. Beginning development in our next generation science standards, and then more full implementation in history and social studies. So again, we've met our objective. For parental engagement, we've used the national standards for family school partnerships assessment guide, so our objective is met. Each year we're getting better and better in terms of our parental involvement. And so that's great. I think that there's still areas of growth. So for example, connecting families to local officials. This has been an area we've talked about as a board that we could do better at in terms of advocating for Bayshore in the community. And this is an area that we can hopefully move forward in coming years. For school climate, in the last California Healthy Kids survey we did was 2021. It's done every 2 years. So it'll be done in the spring of 2023. So next year at this time, there'll be new data to share. And then we added the equity survey in terms of the equity audit and asking kids. So again, we've met the objective. Course access, we use the San Mateo County course access data sheet, and we've met this because of 100% of our students have access to all courses. K-5 are enrolled in grade level courses for English, math, science, social studies, PE, and choir. And then our 6th through 8th grade students have all of those, plus they get an elective. So next steps. So we're required now to present these measurements by June 30th, which we're doing tonight. We will publish the findings in the California School Dashboard online by November 30th, and then it'll go live in December. So I will have this presentation. I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Legaspi to put in a file folder for a date in November for my successor to enter it in the computer, so that the information is there and they know how to enter.
That's great.
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation.
Now, as you were talking, I was thinking that we should probably do it, have the city council candidates come to Bayshore in October and have an open town hall for the community to be able to ask them questions.
So we, I will make sure that I follow up with Mrs. Baker and my successor, because we did that 2 years ago.
I think so. I remember them coming.
Yeah, our
Good.
students organized it, and so yeah, I think it'd be great for us to make that.
Suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah. Okay. Next is resolution 2121, which is our universal PK planning and implementation grant program. And the reason that we are doing this is because, as you've seen over the past few months with the new budgets that are coming out, there's been a push for universal pre-K. There's been a push for universal TK. There is a requirement that by 2026, we have to offer TK for our students, which means so each year we push back the start date by 2 months for when their birthday is. We are very fortunate, since we have a preschool program on campus, we are able to offer our parents an option, whether they want to be in our preschool program or whether they want to be in our TK/kindergarten program, depending upon the needs of their child, because every child is different. Some are ready to go into kindergarten and can have 2 years of TK in kindergarten, and some need an extra year of preschool. And so we are having conversations with our families if they fall in that gap. We have to do the resolution though. In order for us to qualify for $57,059. And as you know, I don't like to leave money on the table. And so we have to pass this resolution in order for them to give us the $57,000.
Real quick before we do, so, because obviously if they're new children coming into public education, do we do an assessment on the child to determine whether it should be in pre-K or TK? Or is it a combination?
It's a combination. It's a combination of both. And we've actually had children that have started out in our kindergarten program, and we've realized that they had never been in school before. And then we talked to the parent, and the parent said, I think preschool is probably better. And they made the shift, and vice versa.
Okay, so
There is assessments called SKU that a preschool should be taken, and it's a state requirement. It's a way of how teachers and parents, sometimes the parents fill it out, sometimes they lie about it. Oh, my child is good. But if it's already there, it kind of gives the teacher, the staff, some sort of idea of where this child is coming from.
Okay.
So it's a really good tool, I think. And they're probably, you guys are using it.
I believe we are,
Yeah.
Okay.
but I will confirm.
Excellent. Okay, well, with that, I need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2121.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then we'll move on to business and fiscal services.
Okay, so now I will do our budget presentation before we do our public hearing. Okay, so highlights. So the LCFF COLA, based on the governor's budget and the May revised, increased to 6.56 from when he proposed in January of 5.33. We've also increased the LCFF funding because they are now doing the 3-year ABA average model, which is a huge plus, not only for us, but for other districts as well. As we went through COVID, there were attendance issues because kids were sick. We wanted them to stay home. And so using a 3-year average is really helpful. And we've talked about this, we budget for kids, whether they're in school or not. It's twice as much work to when kids are absent. And so it's not like we don't have people doing the work. And so the 3-year average is a great addition.
Maybe it's a step closer to actually basing it off of enrollment.
Yes. They've increased federal and state categorical funding in certain areas. As I said, we've increased our staffing to support special education. So we've increased instructional aides as well as restructuring the student services department. We have a stable preschool and meal program. Both programs are funding themselves. In the past, we've had encroachment on our general fund, and both of them are funding themselves, which is really exciting. I would love to do research on how many districts actually have their meal program paid for themselves. I think it's pretty rare, so we should be pretty proud of ourselves. And then future retirement rates are stabilizing for STRS, which is the certificated, and they actually decreased for the next year for PERS, which is our classified. But again, that's one of those areas that in the budget that they are talking about right now, they did not include in there for pensions. And they really, it's still a topic of conversation that we need to talk about, because we don't choose those rates, but now we're held accountable. And when we have to pay those rates, it takes away from paying for services for our kids. So the majority of changes, as we said, increase the LCFF funding. We started spending our ESSER 3 funds. These are one-time COVID money from the federal government that we had not started spending yet. So that's shown. We have the addition of the educator effectiveness revenue. We have some new local grants. And then again, I talked about the additional special ed staffing increased, so contributions were needed. And that's always the case. They never give you enough money for special ed. Special ed always costs more than what they allocate. And so that comes from the general fund. At the second interim, we were saying that our total funds, that this is revenues, money that we receive, would be about 5.5 million. Within proposed budget, we're saying that we're going to receive about 6 million. In terms of expenditures, we've increased the teaching staff, we've increased classified, retirement rates have increased, we added benefit costs for new staff members, books and supplies are projected as needed. We have a slight adjustment on the estimated cost of special ed services that are being provided by the county office. So those are kind of our, as we said, our PE teacher, adapted PE teachers, those types of things. And then we increased the amount of the annual transfer to the deferred maintenance. We've been in our building for 5 years. And as Ms. Legaspi knows, now things are starting to break. And so we need to make sure that we have money in there to fix what the issues are. So at the second interim, we were estimating that we would be spending 5.7 million. And now at the proposed budget, we're estimating that we're spending 6 million, but that includes the 3% raise that I had, that we had shown that we're going to adopt a little bit later, and that I was hoping to account for staff.
Could you go into a little bit about the books and supplies? The number had decreased, and so just curious as to.
So we're adopting new math books next year. And so we're purchasing all new math materials for kindergarten through 8th grade. So that's one of the major increases. So that's where one of the increases is from.
There was a decrease from 179 to 115.
So what happened to all the other textbooks or other, that we're no longer using? Do we recycle? I mean, how does it go? Do we?
So our math books that we were using for the past 3 years are, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not textbooks like we had. They are consumables.
Right.
And so there's nothing for us. If we are, we're recycling them. They're not meant to be surplus to go to anybody else.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of online components. And then we did go down in books and supplies because I think that our Chromebooks are listed in there. And because we got that grant, we normally say we replace 10%, but since we were able to replace all of them through E-rate, that's a decrease in that area as well. So then here's the multi-year projection for 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25. As you can see, we are not deficit spending next year, which is exciting. We are deficit spending in the second year out, but we are still showing a healthy reserve of 791,000. And then in the third year out, because of all the increases, it does show us dropping to a 4%. We're just above the 4% threshold. But the reality is more often than not, that 3 years isn't really what it turns out to be. So that gives courage. As long as we're healthy, we're at 14% for next year and 11% for the year after, which is a safe reserve, especially for a district of our size, because there can be unexpected expenses, and we want to make sure that we're still able to pay our bills as we go each year out. So there is additional funding on the horizon. We do think that there's going to be a proposed increase in the LCFF base funding. We won't know until the state actually finalizes the budget between the legislature and the governor. The governor's budget proposed one-time discretionary funding of $1,500 per child And so that has not been accounted for yet. So that would be additional funds for us. We talked about the $57,000 for the state pre-K planning and implementation grant. That's not budgeted in here. And then there's going to be another state kitchen infrastructure grant of about $25,000 that will help us buy new materials for our kitchen as well. So next steps, tonight was the public hearing. We still have to do a public hearing. And then we will adopt the budget tomorrow. Technically, the state legislature has to pass a state budget bill by June 15th, which they did, except there's it's not official yet. And it gets worked out in the next 2 months, and then it's signed off by the governor, but they technically met their due diligence so that they still get paid by June 15th. If there are major adjustments between what was presented from the May revise and then has a major change on our budget, we have to do a 45-day revise, so that at our August board meeting, we would make those adjustments and present it to the board again. And then, as you know, by September 15th, we do the annual unaudited actuals to the board. We do the first interim report in December, and then we do the second interim report in March. So any other questions on the budget before the public hearing?
Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, then we will open public hearing at 6:57 p.m. Are there any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Then we will close public hearing at 6:57 p.m.
We now have a public hearing for reserves in excess of minimum reserve requirements. So anytime you have a reserve that's over 4%, you have to do a public hearing on reserves in excess. And what we have stated is that we've allocated where these funds are because we are a small school district. So we just have to do another public hearing.
Okay, and so we'll open the public hearing at 6:58. Are there any public comments?
They're not.
And we will close public hearing at 6:58.
Next is for our parcel tax. So we had this conversation 8 years ago. Our parcel tax ends June 2023. So in order for us to move forward with putting it back on the ballot in November, we have to do a public hearing and then a resolution to share with the public that we are planning on having an election to renew our parcel tax for another 8 years. And the parcel tax is based, we started it out at $200, and then each year it goes up by CPI. And so it'll be on the ballot in November. So I'm going to take care of everything before I leave. So then you'll just have to have a decision on whether or not you need to campaign or not. For a parcel tax, you need 66% of the voters. In the past, we've always had well over 80% approve our parcel taxes. We're very fortunate that our community appreciates and believes and understands the need for for either our parcel tax or our bond. So we have to open a public hearing.
Okay. Can I ask a question, or do I ask that during public hearing?
How about you ask it during the resolution?
During the resolution. Okay, so we'll open the public hearing at 6:59 p.m. Are there any public comments?
No.
And we'll close at 6:59 p.m.
Okay, so now in order for us to put it on the ballot, we have to pass the resolution 2122, which orders the election for the partial tax. So now what is your question?
Okay, so my question was, in the past, when it passed, did we have to campaign?
No,
Okay, that's why I was just curious, because if we did, I'm curious as to what the budget was, if we needed to or not, so,
we have not campaigned under my.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Fortunately.
In my
That's great to
time
know.
Here, I've not known Bayshore to campaign.
Well, just again, to make sure that the community understands the benefit that it's going to bring. So, okay, with that, I need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2122.
Motion to approve resolution 2122.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So next is our developer fees study report. So we did a developer fee study that shows that with the increased developments that are coming into play, does it warrant us being able to raise our developer fees? You can only raise them every 2 years. The state has to say it's going to go from X dollars to another. It's We did the study and it says that we warrant increasing the rates, so we'll be able to increase them to the maximum. Again, because we're a K-8 district, we only get 60%. Jefferson Union gets the remaining 40%. It's $4.40. It's not a lot of money. Developer fees are not going to build a new school, but it is helpful. And so we always want to make sure that we are providing, that we're receiving the highest dollar amount that we possibly can. So we need to do a public hearing for this.
Okay, and developer fees are one time.
Yes.
So, okay, so open public comment at 7:01 p.m. Are there any public comments?
No.
And we will close at 7:01.
So now we need to approve the resolution to actually increase our developer fees. If you approve the resolution, then 60 days from now, our developer fees will go up. So any developer fees that are paid between now and 60 days stays at the current rate. And then 60 days, they then are increased. Again, to Board President Rudolph's statement, they are one time. So it's either during new construction or when you add on. And existing homes pay only when they're adding on more than 500 square feet. So if they build 499 square feet, we do not receive any development.
Okay, with that, I need a
Are we
motion.
expecting any new development?
Well, we're still, yes, so they've only done phase 1 for Midway, and so there's 6 phases, so we'll continue to get those.
And then Carter.
And then Carter will get as well, and then eventually when they break down on the Bayland, we'll get that as well.
Are there any other parcels up for development in our area?
Well, there's the Cow
Cow
Palace.
The Cow Palace one.
That's the state.
There is a portion,
There's a
a
portion
section
that's
that's
the
Daly
state.
City.
That's it. And they are planning on developing that
I
too?
think like 130 units.
But maybe we could talk about bringing in
Grocery store?
Yes.
some critical services to the
Yeah.
community.
Trader Joe's.
I like the way you think.
I think that was talked about many years ago, right?
Yeah,
Kind of just, yeah,
Okay.
I motion.
we'll revisit that.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
So next is the classified monthly salary schedule for 22-23. I'm proposing that we add an increase of 3% to all of the monthly salary schedules for our classified employees. And I had already accounted for that in our budget. So I know that the county office is going to say that it's fine, we're able to move forward. But I'm asking that the board approve a 3% raise.
Okay. And with that, I need a motion and a second to approve the classified monthly salary schedule for the 2022-2023 school year.
Right, so these are not effective until July 1.
Motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
So the next is a new classified hourly salary schedule. And so these are for our instructional aides, these are for our kitchen staff, for substitutes who come in. And so what we have changed is we've actually created now a range and step based on the actual job that they were doing. And so I did research with surrounding districts so that we were comparable in the raises that we were giving. And so I'm asking for you to approve the hourly salary.
Okay. Need a motion and a second to approve the classified hourly salary schedule for the 2022-2023 school year.
motion to approve the classified hourly salary schedule.
Can
Can I second? Go right ahead, Ms. Brad.
And all in favor? Aye.
So next is the employment agreement between the Bayshore Elementary School District and Mrs. Elizabeth Beal for the position of superintendent. Board President Rudolph, do you want to describe the major elements of the contract before you ask for approval?
Sure. So this contract was reviewed by the county deputy attorney and approved, and includes the base salary and the benefits typical and traditional of this position. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion and a second to approve the contract.
Motion to approve the contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
I've never asked you this. Do you go by Ms. or Mrs.? Okay. Mrs. Beal, would you like to come up and say a few words?
I would love to. Do I stand?
I would actually stand over by Teresa.
So the public
that
can
the public can
be-
see you.
Oh.
No, no, no. Keep going,
Right by
keep going.
Teresa.
There you
Yay.
Might have to raise that camera up a little bit.
Oh.
There we go.
Okay. Well, this is a very special moment for me. The last time I think I was in here, it was a little nerve wracking, but I feel much joy and peace. It is an honor and a privilege to be a part of this school and this district, and it's been so welcoming, even right from the start, from the whole process, our interaction, the support of Nancy and Dr. Pittman. So I can't wait to get started. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
This is a
Yay. So we will finish the board meeting and then you will have an opportunity to actually sign your contract and the board will sign the contract and then we'll take a photo of all of you.
All right, so with that, we will move on to the superintendent report.
So first is summer school. So I'm excited to share that we started our summer camp yesterday. We have 151 of our students that are enrolled. Yesterday, 117 attended. Today, 141 attended. We had some that were here yesterday that were absent today, but Mrs. Bowman has been calling our families to make sure that they know that they're coming. And we only have 2 that are actually have changed their plans. So it's pretty exciting that we have over a third of our students participating in our 2nd annual summer camp. The kids are have the opportunity to take art, fitness, we have Elevate Math, we have a handful of kids taking coding, and we are offering free reading support. And then we also, all of our students receive snacks and free lunch. So we're doing a grab and go lunch, and the lunch is just the same lunches that we serve during the school year. Mrs. Beal was here today and she got to participate in Taco Tuesday. And
Not to
so
be missed.
that's right, that's right. So I'm excited about that. The other update that I wanted to give was just on our COVID-19 update. We're following the same protocols. We're doing strongly recommended for masks. Most of our kids and staff are still wearing masks. Updates will happen throughout the summer as we get ready to roll into the next year. And hopefully the numbers will continue to go down so that we can continue to bring families back onto campus and start bringing people back together again. And then I'm excited to share that I organized for us to partner with Safeway to host a booster clinic for 5-year-olds and above. Saturday, write this down, Saturday, July 9th. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in our gym. You can register online or there will be walk-ins available, so we'll push that out. And there will be an opportunity for anybody 5 and above can get their first shot, their second shot, or their booster shot. Whether they are a child or an adult, they will have all of the doses available.
Can you repeat the times again?
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on July 9th.
Do they have a flyer?
We are going to make a flyer. We will push that out. There's a QR code that people can register from. We'll make sure we push it out to all of our families. If you guys can push it out, we'll have it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And then if you're willing and available to volunteer, we need about 3 to 4 volunteers on that Saturday. And it doesn't have to be for the whole time. If you can give an hour, any sort of time that you can give would be great.
Right.
And then the final item that I have is resolution 2124, calling an election for board members. So 3 seats are open in November. And so we have to pass a resolution in order to put it on the ballot. All 3 seats will be for 4-year terms. So I just need a motion and a second to approve resolution 2124.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And that is all that I have.
Excellent. And we will move on to board member reports. Do any of the board members like to share?
Don't get me.
Talking about community events and bringing people together, we will be starting the planning for the Big Shore Block Party. I've currently reached out to the council members, so it'll be sometime in October, still determining the weekend. So just want people to be advised and hope you all come.
First, I want to congratulate Mrs. Veal, who's succeeding Dr. Pittman's role here as superintendent, and also want to thank Dr. Pittman for all your years of service being here and building this wonderful school. And excited to move forward in this new chapter here at the Bay Shore School District. It's going to be exciting. I wish everyone a great, healthy summer, and look forward to many great things to come.
Yeah, so today I attended the K-12 Workforce Development Program. It's a summer program that just launched. It's going to continue until the fall, but since it's a pilot program, it's, it has yet to be seen, how it works out. But the celebration was at City Hall today. And the 2 persons that co-founded this whole project was Shaquille Ali and Maybelle Manuel. So it was a great celebration, and Mayor Rod, he did a wonderful presentation, and his theme was generational wealth. So
And should know that both of those people are in the Jefferson Elementary School District.
well, yeah, but years ago when they got together and developed it, then they both left and now they're back. So yeah, it's a work in progress. So I just wanted to know if our school's summer camp is going to be in conjunction with that, or it's all separate.
It's separate.
Separate. And what else? Oh, it's a possibility that Mr. Pedro Fonseca will be also hosting a clinic, vaccination clinic. And the proposed date was July 11th. But now that I know that you have July 9th, you might want to push that back. Push what back? The 9th? No, not hers. Push his back.
But maybe that would be good to back, if they miss the 9th, it's not too
Is that
far.
an option?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
Monday
it's an option.
What would be the location of the 11th?
in Midway Village.
Oh, yeah.
An outdoor. Ours would be
Inside.
indoors.
Ours is in the gym, yeah.
So we'll see how it works out.
I don't think necessarily having it back to back is a problem. And I actually think having it on a Monday is probably a good option, because some people might work on Saturdays or go out of town on that Saturday. And so it gives them an option of a weekday and a weekend.
Okay. Well, that's it.
Well, first I want to congratulate all the graduates that's on their early learning, the staff, Ms. Sabato, your acting role as a director for preschool and the staff. I wasn't here physically, but I was thinking of how the graduation happened. I saw how they gave Dr. Pittman with her special superpower or superhero cape. That was beautiful. I just want to congratulate all the 8th grade staff, that for all the hard working that you guys have put down. I know that we've been going through the COVID and now, staff and then changes of having a new superintendent, every transition or every change happens to doesn't sit well with some people. But it's, and then the board has to sit in 2 days of interviewing candidates that will best suit, not that it's for us, but it's best suits the community and especially our children. I want to congratulate you, Mrs. Neal, for putting me to come up and take this role. When I first saw you, first impression, as we all know, it's very important. And right away, I felt like this is the right person. And to tell you guys that when we all voted that day, you were the first. We all had you first. So I'm okay to tell that because you got the position. It was so interesting because we all felt that we were the best candidates. And then, Dr. Pittman, thank you so much for everything that you have done. You have put Bayshore on the map. You have advocated for Bayshore in numerous ways. You are, I looked at it like a white girl that came here and did all the dirty work. You flipped this school in 360. So thank you for everything. We will. We totally missed you for all the hard work, for your tough love, that you don't bow down to anybody when it comes to Bayshore. We will continue to bother you with the Baylands. So yeah, I say mahalo. Thank you for that. And then Joy.
Hey, this is tomorrow.
I know, but I gotta say my speech before everybody comes tomorrow. Joy, your wit, your gracious love for Bayshore will continue to shine. And I know wherever you'll be, that you'll continue to come and help, especially in October day, that you still need your planning and your experiences to help out. Rick will get a super duper nice spray of power pressure water for it. So we will call you to come help us clean the school for us. Thank you, board. Thank you for everything. Thank you, President. And I know you guys were in the core of this, helping out to find the best successor or the best person to replace Dr. Pittman. Thank you so much. I don't have nothing to report, but just thank you.
Well, and on that note, good segue. Congratulations, Ms. Veal. Welcome to the team. Welcome to Bayshore. There's always that, the saying of, behind the curtain. So thank you for your patience last week as we were working through all the logistics. And I wanted to acknowledge Vice President Joy Gutierrez-Pilari and all the help. I was running around the valley floor of Yosemite trying to get a bar, trying to get emails through. And fortunately, Joy was backing me up. She was boots on the ground, making sure everything kept moving along. So thank you for all your hard work in making this happen. Likewise, I also want to, as Ms. Teresa had mentioned, congratulate all the 8th graders on their promotion. We wish them the best of luck in high school. And also I have to say, I was able to attend the early learning graduation, and It was awesome. So
I agree.
I believe it was on videotaped.
Yeah.
It's available
Yeah.
to see. So if you didn't catch it, it's worthwhile. These kids are amazing. So are there any other last minute comments?
Can we also make sure that Mrs. Beal we still have picked, like the giveaway backpack in August 13th?
Yes, it's part of our tradition
Yes.
list that I have
You can
listed for her on.
make sure that she knows a little history of it.
Backpack giveaway and the Christmas
Christmas and-
drive.
Block party.
And block party.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a big hit 2 years in a row, so.
Okay, well, if there is nothing else, this meeting is adjourned at 7:21 PM.